Three heads of state wanted to stop selling oil in US dollars. All three are now dead or have been overthrown. Coincidence? And now it is happening again, right before our eyes. Somewhere in the Strait of Hormuz, a tanker is anchored today, fully loaded, 2 million barrels of crude oil. The captain is waiting, not for wind, not for authorization from Washington. He is waiting for a one-time passcode, one he will only receive after making a payment, not in dollars, in Chinese yuan. Who decided that the world should pay in dollars, and who pays the price when that changes? The events, dates, and sources referenced in this video can be found in the description below. Draw your own conclusions. To understand what is happening today in the Strait of Hormuz, we need to go back to the moment when the system was born, 1971. Richard Nixon steps into a television studio. He speaks calmly, almost casually, but what he announces will shake the global financial order for decades to come. The United States is ending the dollar's convertibility to gold. Since 1944, every dollar had been backed by gold, $35 per ounce, guaranteed. After this evening, nothing. Only trust. And trust, as you know, cannot be printed. The dollar quickly lost value. Countries began selling their reserves. Investors fled. The most powerful financial system in the world started to wobble. Then, in 1973, came the second blow. OPEC imposed an oil embargo against the United States, punishment for supporting Israel during the Yom Kippur War. Oil prices quadrupled within weeks. Gas lines stretched across America. Factories shut down. The economy faltered. America faced two crises at once, a dollar with no backing and oil being used as a weapon against it. At that moment, at rock bottom, a plan was born. A plan the public was never allowed to vote on. A plan that still shapes the world today. And it began with a flight into the desert. 1974. U.S. Treasury Secretary William Simon boards a plane to Saudi Arabia. No press conference, no public statement. The negotiations took place under the strictest secrecy. What was on the table was as simple as it was consequential. Saudi Arabia agreed to two things. First, oil would be traded globally only in U.S. dollars. Second, oil revenues would be reinvested into U.S. Treasury bonds. In return, Riyadh would receive military protection, the most advanced weapons systems, and a quiet, never officially confirmed guarantee. America would stand behind the Saudi monarchy, no matter what. King Faisal signed. Shortly afterward, the other OPEC members joined. The petrodollar was born. No law, no referendum, no international treaty, just a handshake in the desert away from the eyes of the world. And suddenly, every country on earth that wanted to buy oil first needed US dollars. Japan, Germany, India, China, all of them, without exception. Who controls how many dollars exist? Washington. A dollar no longer backed by gold became a dollar backed by oil. The most elegant power shift in modern history, without a single shot being fired. And now comes the part most people do not know. Every time you fill up your car, diesel, gasoline, heating oil, you are indirectly feeding this system. The price at the pump is not just supply and demand, it is the result of a handshake made in 1974, one that none of us ever voted for.
But what happens when someone wants to break that deal? This is where things get uncomfortable. Muammar Gaddafi had a plan. He wanted a unified African currency, the gold dinar. Oil would no longer be priced in dollars, but in gold. Several African nations purportedly showed interest. Gaddafi allegedly accumulated more than 140 tons of gold. In 2011, Gaddafi was overthrown. Libya descended into chaos. The gold dinar never became reality. Saddam Hussein chose a different path. In 2000, he announced that Iraq would begin selling its oil in euros, and he did, the first OPEC country ever to do so. In 2003, American troops entered Iraq. One of the first actions of the occupation authority, switching all oil transactions back to dollars. And Iran? Tehran has been trading oil outside the dollar system for years. The result? Some of the harshest economic sanctions ever imposed on a nation. 3 attempts, 3 shocking endings. Now, ask yourself the question everyone should ask. Was it coincidence, or was it a system? I will leave that open, but remember the question, because in a few minutes, it takes on an entirely new dimension. Now comes the part hardly anyone talks about. What exactly did America gain from the petrodollar? Imagine being able to spend more than you earn and never being held accountable. That has been America's privilege since 1974. Today, the U.S. budget deficit exceeds $1.7 trillion per year, a number with 12 zeros. In Germany, in Japan, in almost any other country on Earth, that would trigger a currency crisis, inflation, capital flight, potential default. In America? Not necessarily, because the rest of the world absorbs the excess dollars.
As reserve currency, as the currency of oil, as the default global standard. Every country that buys oil effectively buys American debt. Japan holds more than $1 trillion in U.S. treasuries. China nearly as much. They finance America, whether they want to or not. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary John Connally once told his European counterparts, "The dollar is our currency, but your problem." It sounds arrogant. It is also remarkably precise. Now comes the twist. Because the petrodollar system I have just described as the foundation of global finance, that was yesterday. What is happening today has left even seasoned economists speechless, and it began with a war. February 28, 2026. The United States and Israel launch coordinated airstrikes against Iran. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, is killed. Iran responds with a move that sends shockwaves through the global economy. The Strait of Hormuz closed. Normally, 20% of the world's oil passes through this narrow waterway, along with 20% of global LNG trade. Within hours, blocked. Energy prices explode worldwide. The International Energy Agency releases 1/3 of its strategic emergency reserves. Shipping companies suspend operations. Tankers anchor and wait in the Gulf of Oman. Then comes the move nobody expected. Iran reopens the strait, but only for selected ships and only after payment. Up to $2 million per tanker per transit, not in dollars, in Chinese yuan or Bitcoin.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps personally manages the system. Each vessel submits cargo manifests, flag information, crew lists, and location data. Once payment is confirmed, a one-time secret code is issued. A patrol boat escorts the tanker through the strait. With approximately 21 million barrels flowing through daily, analysts estimate that between $600 and $800 million per month in yuan flows into Iran's central bank. Remember the question from the beginning? 3 leaders wanted to stop selling oil in dollars. All 3 were overthrown or killed. Iran did it anyway, not through a speech, not through legislation, but with a patrol boat, a passcode, and a Chinese bank transfer. And Beijing watches, says nothing. Why? Because China is already acting. While the West drains its emergency reserves, Beijing sits atop the largest oil stockpile in the world, an estimated 1.3 billion barrels in strategic reserves. The United States has around 415 million. China spent the past year buying discounted, sanctioned oil from Iran, Russia, and Venezuela. In the first 2 months of 2026 alone, Chinese crude imports rose by 16%, and since 2023, Beijing has been purchasing part of its Saudi oil imports in yuan, not dollars. The dollar's share of global foreign exchange reserves has fallen from 73% in 2001 to below 58% today, the lowest level since the post-war era. Millimeter by millimeter, barrel by barrel, yuan by yuan. No war, no announcement, just a quiet, patient shift.
Exactly what America itself did in 1974. Now a question for you. Write your answer in the comments. Do you believe the dollar will still be the world's dominant currency in 20 years? Yes or no, and why? I read every comment. And now we arrive at the question that turns the entire petrodollar story upside down. In 1974, a secret handshake in the desert determined which currency would rule the world. No law, no referendum. A deal between two men behind closed doors. In 2026, an Iranian patrol boat stands in the narrow passage through which 1/5 of the world's oil flows, and it imposes the same condition Washington once imposed. If you want to pass, you pay in our currency. 3 leaders tried to break this system. All 3 failed. Iran is breaking it right now. Not with a treaty, but with force, with crypto, with yuan, and China sits quietly beside it, buying oil, filling reserves, waiting. The real question is not, will the petrodollar survive? The real question is, who really decided in 1974 how the world would pay, and who will decide tomorrow?